When you fall, you have two choices. You can either stay down or get back up. Unfortunately, sometimes you don't always know how to get back up. That's what I'm here for. Take my hand and let's rise together. Welcome to After You've Fallen. Welcome to my first Unscripted podcast. Here I have with me I'm the fourth. Three of my dearest friends. And so I'm going to kind of go out on a limb and we're just going to start talking. And my conversations with all of these people is usually very, very productive, and something great comes out of it. So I thought that why don't we have one of those conversations like in the raw on the podcast? So that's what we're doing. So here we have Kim. She is my dear good friend. She is studying nursing at BYU, and she has helped me with many of the podcasts, and she is the friend that is probably with me the most often, especially in regards to working on podcasts and stuff like that. And then over there, we have Miss Aliyah.
Hi.
She graduated from BYU with a psychology undergrad, and she is, in the fall, she is going to go to Washington, D.C., to George Washington University to receive a doctorate in occupational therapy. Then here we have my good friend Aneeqa, who was on the migraine episode with me. And also Kim was on the neurotransmitters episode. But Aneeqa was on the migraine episode because she struggles with some head issues as well. But she graduated from UVU with a undergrad in psychology, and she is almost completed her master's degree in psychology as well.
Just a few weeks away.
Yeah. So today I thought that it would be cool to have us all talk about depression. So let's start by asking our psychology graduates the difference between being depressed and depression.
Cool. Do you want to start?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I was reviewing the DSM criteria earlier today, and there are a couple of mood disorders specifically related to depression. So the first one they talk about is major depressive disorder, which basically is when you experience, feelings of sadness or hopelessness for an extended period of time. And usually you have to experience those symptoms for 2 weeks. So sadness or other symptoms are like fatigue, or you need to sleep a lot, or maybe you can't sleep. You lose interest in activities that you normally love. That's what major depressive disorder is. Two similar disorders are bereavement, and that usually happens after a big change or a big loss. And so you're mourning something, and that's more the cause of your sadness and those feelings, whereas major depressive disorder, it could be linked to a loss, or it could just be, as a result of, imbalances in your body and stuff like that. So those are kind of the big ones I thought to mention.
One of the things that so Candace Owens is actually the one that first brought it up, that when I paid attention to it, is she said that that the difference between being depressed and having depression is if you can answer the question, why am I sad? I don't know. Aneeqa, do you have anything else that you want to say about that?
Yeah, I think my thoughts on this are that a lot of people these days can say that they are depressed, but most of the time, majority of the time, without an actual diagnosis of depression, people can experience depression, experience feeling sad, having grief, being tired, not having the energy or motivation to do a lot of things. But when it really becomes a diagnosis of depression, it's something that is extended over a longer amount of time, more than just a lapsing feeling that you have.
Yeah, I think another thing that I think was very important that Aliyah said is that it's when you lose pleasure or interest in things that you usually or that you used to just absolutely love. But anyway, okay. So whether or not we have all struggled with like actual depression, or we've just been depressed, let's talk about some of the ways that we kind of like pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, if you will, or things that we can do to help alleviate some of the awful symptoms of depression. Go ahead. Go for it, Aneeqa.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. What was the question? Are we talking about what we've done to relieve our own depression?
Yeah.
Okay. Something that I actually haven't personally tried, but I'm researching a lot about right now for my final capstone project is actually ketamine. Specifically for those who have, like major depressive disorder and suicidality. I think it's a really interesting drug of choice because when you do have major depressive disorder, it's usually treatment-resistant depression. So the cool thing about ketamine is that it's very rapid acting. So, I mean, for like the long-term use, if you are going to try ketamine, I've heard that it's a lot more successful over time and with multiple treatments rather than just one treatment. But I think that it's a really cool thing that a lot of psychiatric clinics are offering because for those who do experience suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation, it's a very great way to treat it quickly if you are struggling with something like that. So I think that's a great drug that has come out recently, more into the light.
Yeah. I personally do ketamine quite often. There are some times where it really can kind of help pick me up, and other times where it can just kind of like center me a little bit more and kind of like look at things in a broader perspective of life and stuff. I don't know. Let's see. Kim, what kinds of things have you done that have helped you come out of like depression or in like that shutdown mode for anxiety and things like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely, and this is something that Shannon and I have talked about, where I've never been like, I don't have clinical depression or generalized depression, but I understand like mental illnesses and I understand how it feels when your brain and your body just want to shut down. And some of the things that I have found that are really helpful when you are in that shutdown mode is and I think it's different per person, this is why it's kind of hard, but I feel like doing something that makes you feel like anything that you love or that makes you feel productive or like you got something done. I feel like journaling is huge, just being able to get emotions out on paper and get thoughts out on paper, because sometimes when they're trapped in your head, they just sit and spiral and stew and spiral. So getting it out on paper for me is really helpful because I can more easily separate reality from my own thoughts. And so I would suggest that to anyone so that you don't have to sit in your own thoughts and you can kind of, make it into something that is easier to look at and understand. And I think also Shannon and I found this Instagram post I found it and I showed Shannon that I thought was really cool, but it was saying when you're in the shutdown mode, sometimes you need to just like wake your body up. So whether that's dancing, like put on some music that you just love and start dancing, or watch something funny that makes you laugh, or splash cold water on yourself, or something that just kind of helps you to stop slowly going into this spiral that's bringing you down and like snap you out of it, I think can be really helpful as well.
Yeah. I like personally, I have, there have been times that I've just been like so like just down and everything, and I'll call my mom or whatever and she'll be like, Shannon, get up and just move, and so then I'll just dance to like my music in my own head and stuff like that. I don't know. Have you ever done something like that, Aliyah?
Actually, yeah. That's pretty much the greatest way I deal with moments when I'm stuck. I've by no means dealt with depression on, very intense or severe levels, but I have had periods in my life where life has been harder and depression has followed those hard moments. And what I usually do is somehow shock my system, kind of like what you were saying. And most of the time, this doesn't work for everybody, but for me, a shock to my system has usually been like correlated with some kind of new purpose in my life and some new goal or motivation. which I understand is a really hard thing to sometimes initiate when you're in such a like sticky spot, when you are having trouble finding that motivation. But yeah, finding a new goal, a new purpose, or a new project or something tends to kind of waken me up and give me, you know, just the little energy I need to just get going again, you know? And that's the hardest part, is how do you stand back up once you're down?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think that I find like the most like pivotal in those kind of things, because I struggle with severe depression, as well as like a lack of like motivation and initiation and things like that are all just like direct results from the head injury and stuff. So one of the things that is very, very like critical for me is relationships. Like finding people who can help me engage, who can help me like start doing something or whatever. But before we touch on that, Aneeqa, is there anything else that you want to say about like shocking your system or jumping out of depression or anything like that?
I've also struggled with like major depressive disorder. I think it kind of is comorbid with PTSD, which I've been diagnosed with since I was 8. So I've kind of been dealing with it pretty harshly since a young child. Honestly, I think the only thing for me that's kind of kept me going or given me a reason to just keep living is school. And so it gives you a purpose in a different way than you can get purpose. It gives you a reason to do something. It gives you deadlines, which you'll struggle with anyway if you have depression. But yeah, between finding something that you love, finding a passion in life, and then also just having people there to support you, I think is always going to be important in treating depression.
For sure. Aneeqa and I both absolutely love learning.
I wish I could make a career out of it.
Oh, me too. But yeah, and it also sounds like Aneeqa and I are the two that severely struggle with like depression on a consistent basis. So I don't know. Who knows? Maybe there's like something behind like loving to learn and also like struggling
being
with
depressed.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
maybe it has the opposite effect.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I don't know. That's a genuine like thought that I don't know. I've never researched it.
We're just mentally ill, Shannon.
Yes. Yeah, maybe that's exactly what it is. You know, I mean, most people hate learning, hate going to school and stuff, but you and I, we love it.
We really do.
But okay, well, so let's go back to relationships though, and how helpful they are, because for me that is the biggest thing that helps me like with depression and things like that is finding good like support. You know, finding people who can validate my feelings, who can like pull me out when I'm really just struggling, who can encourage me and tell me that like that I am enough, that I am okay, and things like that. And all three of you have all been amazing at doing that for me. So I don't know. Why don't we each why don't we have all of you guys share some of your experiences with people, or with how they've helped you like I don't know, kind of come up from sad times, even when it's people who like are unsuspecting. Maybe it's a stranger, or maybe it's like a parent that you don't like, I don't know, that you don't necessarily get along as well with, or something like that. Who wants to start?
I mean, I've got an answer, kind of a fun one. So for those who don't know, I've been working with Shannon's family for almost 5 years now. Crazy. Within that 5 years, I've obviously struggled with depression, as everyone in Shannon's family knows. I've had to like kind of cancel shifts last minute with people because I can't get out of bed. But someone who has been a huge support to me is actually Tanya, Shannon's sister.
Tanya is my sister who has disabilities, who is just so much fun. She is such a riot, but she definitely has disabilities. She functions anywhere between like I don't know, like 7 and 12, depending on what the activity is.
Yeah, she is just like a ray of sunshine. And when she likes you and you're her friend, like you are her friend.
Yeah, she makes sure that you know it.
She is a huge support. Even with just the little Marco Polos that she'll send to people.
She sends so many Marco Polos or messages or anything, just all the time.
You can count on Tanya. Yeah. Yes. Throughout the whole time I've known her, she has been a solid anchor in my life in a lot of ways. A huge support.
Yeah, she considers Aneeqa her best friend. And she shows that in every way. Anytime Aneeqa is over, oh, this is my best friend, and just everything. And yeah, she checks on Aneeqa all the time. She stalks her on Find My Friends.
Yeah.
She Marco Polos her probably like 8 times a day, sometimes more. I don't know how many times she messages or calls you, but I know that she. Like, there are times where she'll feel, like, sad and depressed or whatever, in a very different way. But you know, and she will just constantly message me and constantly, like, call me and just, like, she just wants my attention and everything. But that's probably because, like, for Tanya, I think that I am her rock.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Anyway, okay, one of you guys want to say something about relationships or anything?
I can. Something I was thinking about is, when I am having a lot of emotions and I'm really in my head and I'm feeling really down, I tend to push people away really easily, where I just don't want to talk and I want to be by myself. And something that's been interesting is that I'm currently living at my parents' house for the summer, and it's been an adjustment because when I'm in college, when I'm at school in my own apartment, when I'm having a bad day, I just kind of go into my room, close the door, and I'm done. But here, living at my parents' house, they are really interested in what's going on, and they want to talk, and they want to, build this relationship, which obviously is very important this sometime. But it was an adjustment at the beginning, and it still is some days where I just don't want to talk. But I realized that sometimes I get really annoyed at them, and I don't want them to keep pushing me to, open up to them. But in the moments where I've chosen just to open up and tell them what I'm thinking and talk to them, then that relationship has grown and become so much closer, and I have received a lot of relief from those conversations and like a lot of help, and I felt so much better and like so much relief from those. But it took a minute for me to be able to like open up my heart and my mind to letting that in. And so I think it's just a really cool thing to think about, that sometimes even though we don't want to let people in because we don't think it'll help, it actually in the long run really helps and can pull us out of those things a lot better than we can for ourselves.
Sure.
I love that.
Yeah. Aliyah, do you have anything that you want to add?
Actually, I do. One thing I've found is I have a pretty good support system. But one thing that I found very valuable when I'm dealing with a hard time is for my support system, who I know love and care, like they all love and care for me, when they confront the harsh realities of life with me. They don't coddle me or, try to, help me live in my fantasy world or a fantasy that I wish I were living in. They force me to face my life as it is, and maybe my feelings and sometimes my depression as it is at face value. And sometimes that's really, really hard. But a lot of times when I'm able to see the situation for what it really is, or just say, I'm just feeling this way because I'm just feeling this way, there's not really a cause. When people are able to help me identify that and face it, that's when I feel empowered, because I've named my beast, I can name and identify what I need to work on and what is hard for me, and that's how I find strength.
Yeah.
And they help me and support me through it, but they help me face it, and that's the hard part.
Yeah.
For me.
Sometimes naming your emotions is one of the most, it's definitely one of the most integrative, methods between, like, your right and your left brain, because, like, emotions are centered in your right brain, and they are big, and they are powerful, and they are overwhelming, and sometimes it takes your left brain to go in and calm those emotions down. And your left brain is where, like, your language is developed and things like that. So when you, like, find a name to your, like, when you find a left brain name to your right brain emotion, then it integrates the two and allows you to heal as a whole person much, much, much better, which is which is another reason why writing, like Kim mentioned earlier, is so healing for you. Another thing that I wanted to address is what are some things that people can do who don't have like as strong of support systems and things like that. Like I think that writing is for sure one of them. But I don't know. Does anyone have any ideas as to other ways that we can like offer some suggestions for somebody who doesn't necessarily have a strong support system?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a general sense, this is going to sound really cheesy, but just like finding yourself. For those who don't, I mean, I went through a period of time where I felt like I didn't have a support system. And I think really just digging deep inside of who you are by writing can help you figure out what you like to do. So even just having the motivation to just stretch in the mornings before you get out of bed, or I know how we all feel about meditation, but meditation is really great for some people. And just connecting to who you are.
By we all, she means me. I hate meditation. Like I don't know about Aliyah, but I know that Aneeqa and Kim both love it, but I can't do it.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, okay, so everyone else loves meditation. I do not. But okay, go on, Aneeqa.
Yeah, I mean, just doing simple things, even just making a list of things that are very basic, like brushing your teeth or making your bed, maybe doing a load of laundry, can help you connect to who you are and kind of get out of that I have no motivation and I'm depressed and I have no one around me to help me. You just got to help yourself find that strength within yourself.
Yeah. So I also like I definitely went through a period of time where I felt like I had absolutely nobody as well, even though like my family has always been so amazing and everything. Before the accident, I had I had a lot of friends. Like I had at least like 1,000 people who I knew their names. I was close to them. They were peers. All of that. And so when every single last one of them just completely like ran away after the accident, I felt completely lost and I felt totally alone. And then like Kim mentioned, you know, like the people who did care about me or who did want to like support me or whatever, you know, like I pushed them away. I pushed them away so much because I didn't believe that anyone could love me when people who I had given my life to, when they walked away, you know. I couldn't understand how anyone could be sincere in their efforts. And so I pushed them away. So I definitely went through a period of time as well where I did not think that I had anybody. One of the things that I have found very, very, very instrumental in my personal life for a very, very long time is my music. And it's stuff that I have mentioned on podcasts in the past. I have a Spotify playlist called Self-Worth that has some of my music on there. There's also a playlist on Spotify just called My Music. And both of those are, I mean, obviously that's not all of my music, but both of those are some of the sources of strength that I have found, because the biggest, like, even when you have like no support, like on earth or whatever, you know, like, and this is one that I also did not think that I had for a long time, but you always have the strength and support of your Heavenly Father, like God or Allah or whatever it is that you believe, or like the quote unquote universe or whatever, you know, has your back. They understand you completely, and he wants to be there for you. He wants to make it so that you don't feel miserable. And so through things like prayer or meditation or like pondering and scripture study or even just like some people find a lot of peace by like just sitting in nature or something. I most definitely do not, because I am allergic to nature. But I do really enjoy just looking at the clouds and like looking at how marvelous and miraculous they are, and how God made clouds for us, you know, and so I don't know. There's a lot of strength in a lot of different areas. Besides, like, of course, there's a lot of strength with a good support system. But even if you don't have that, there's still a lot of other places that you can find strength and support and things like that. Is there anything that either of you guys want to add to that discussion?
A little bit. Basically, there have been times in my life when I felt more supported or less supported. Like you, I have a really awesome family. And sometimes, even when you have an awesome support system, you still feel like something's lacking. And I found that one of the best things you can do in those times is try to be a support to somebody else. Try to help somebody else and maybe move the focus away from you so much. Because whenever I get in, you know, kind of a depressive slump and I'm really stuck, I end up thinking a lot about myself and how I'm hurting. And if I am able to say, okay, I'm hurting this much, I'm sure somebody else out there is hurting this much or maybe even more. If I'm able to try and be a support for somebody else, usually I end up making a friend. And usually I find somebody who I can be a good friend to and I can help them, but they can also help me. Yeah.
I think that in many ways is kind of how you and I became friends.
Yeah.
And I have things that I could add to that as well. But I've talked a lot about those kind of things with Kim. So I'm going to let Kim here kind of talk about like service to others and thinking about others when you're in relationships and things like that.
Yeah, Shannon and I were talking about this yesterday, actually. How, I don't know. I feel like it depends on what kind of social media you're following. But for a lot of the things that I've been seeing on Instagram these days and on social media, I just feel like things are very self-focused. And a lot of people are saying things like, well, if people in your life don't do this for you, then like cut them out. Or if they say this to you, then cut them out. And I just feel like there's no mercy anymore. And there's no like ability to build relationships even when people aren't perfect. And I just feel like exactly what Ollie was saying, when we're able to build real relationships where we are focused on someone else's needs and how we can help them and how we can serve them, it lifts us and makes us feel better. I feel like without fail every time. My dad was actually talking to me about this today, and he was saying how we were talking about the link between like physical and mental health, and he said that something he's learned is that when he's in a place where he's like serving more and he is loving people more and helping people more, he feels better like spiritually and physically. It just brings a light into yourself that you need. And so I just feel like sometimes, like we were saying, when people are really in a hard place, they think I just need to shut myself off and just, you know, figure myself out. But sometimes what it really takes is to open up and try to serve and love someone else and realize that that maybe is the piece that we're missing, that we're so consumed in ourselves and our own thoughts and our own self that we're forgetting that like the biggest purpose of life, the reason why we're here, is to be able to reach out and help others and build relationships that are, you know, really healing for both people.
I could not agree more. So I mean, yes, there's 100% so much like power in finding like, you know, like self-care, self-love, Falasha, if you can remember from my love episode. But you can't be so focused on yourself, and like the best way to manage the two is actually to love other people, to serve other people, and in so doing you end up like loving yourself even more. You end up like finding that you do have worth as you like love and serve others and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally agree with everything. That's how I feel with Tanya. Yeah. She makes me do things, and we go and do service for other people, and I'm always like, oh, it's a good thing I have a reason to keep doing this.
Okay, anything else that anyone wants to say about all of that?
Maybe one thing to keep in mind is, I guess there's a balance. Yeah. So you can overdo, you know, investing in relationships to help others. You know, you still do need to consider self-care and self-help. And there is such a thing as a toxic relationship or an unhealthy relationship. And I guess the trick is figuring out, is it still worth it to invest in those relationships? And when do you need to maybe take a step back from that relationship to some degree? And I think that's the trick. And it depends on each person.
That is definitely something that Aliyah and I have talked about.
Yeah.
And I think that it's also very important, for me and many of my listeners who struggle with like severe fatigue and stuff like that, it's like I was actually talking about in a therapy session right before this, that I have been just doing. I have just been like on the go for the last couple of weeks, almost like nonstop. And so in the back of my mind, I'm so fatigued, and I'm freaking out about like my upcoming birthday and about like all of my my lost dreams and ambitions and everything like that. And just like everything is just like a total mess in the back of my mind. And it's because like I haven't taken time out just for me, just to breathe. I mean, technically I have taken some time out, but not enough. I need to take time to just be by myself, to just to recharge, rejuvenate and everything. And then I can go back and serve people again, and it's great and it's wonderful and I love it. But yeah, I definitely think that that as with all things, there is definitely a balance to be had. And the thing that is especially difficult is for those of us with head injuries, or even depression to some extent, where it blurs the line between what is good versus what is not good, or when you have very, very concrete, rigid thinking, like I do, like people with head injuries do, where it's hey, either you just serve others or you just serve yourself, and you have to be able to combine the two and find some balance or mixture in between, and it is so difficult.
Yeah, I think that also, what Ollie was saying is, I'm really glad she added that, because I guess I forget the real problem that there is with people that are in toxic relationships. And so, you would never want someone to encourage someone in that situation just to stay and keep giving. And I feel like it's hard because a lot of people that are in those relationships don't really realize they're in it, or don't really know how much they should give or not. So I feel like one piece of advice I'd have is talk to people that know you and that love you.
That you trust.
That you trust. Talk to your parents, or someone, because usually people around you can tell. They can tell, and you can tell them what's going on, and they can sometimes help you understand, that's normal part of a relationship. Go apologize to each other, forgive, it's okay. Or they could say, hey, that's crossing some boundaries, or that's not something that you really want to deal with. You should reconsider this relationship. And it can help gain some clarity if what you're doing really is just loving someone, or if it's letting someone kind of walk all over you, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I think that's all great. Yeah. I mean, another person you could talk to is a therapist.
Yes.
Someone who you see frequently. They're also a good person to help you decipher whether it's a toxic relationship or not.
Yeah, and therapists are supposed to. There are definitely some quacks out there, but therapists are supposed to be able to be neutral and be able to help you through issues, help you through things, rather than just divulge you into it even more, like a lot of quacks out there do now. But yeah, they're supposed to be able to help you kind of grow yourself, and progress within yourself, rather than just I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else that anyone has to say regarding depression?
I mean, can we talk about avoidance a little bit?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Avoidance is another thing that I've really found myself struggling with. I think that, when you do get so depressed, it's so easy not to do anything ever and then just avoid the world and lock yourself up. And I think that I've kind of just picked up a bad habit of avoidance over the years that's just been accumulating to the point where now I am about to graduate school. I have been in school my whole life, every single semester, and the whole time I've been in school, I've been avoiding everything else, I think, to the point where I'm like scared to go out and get a job now because school has been my job for so long, and I'm comfortable with that, and I know how to do that, and I'm good at that. And so I feel like I almost even find myself not taking certain jobs that I might be good at because I am avoiding the fact that maybe I am good at that, but I'm too scared to do that. And I let fear control me, and I have let fear control me for a long time. And in turn, I've just been avoiding everything, which is just like bottled up, and now it's just exploding.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then I think that another thing with avoidance specifically is and it actually kind of goes back to one of the first things that Kim said, is that, like, find something that you can do that will, like, be productive, that can help you be productive and feel like you're doing something. Because, yeah, like, I mean, like, it's like I mentioned to you guys before we started recording, like, I had to shower this morning, and showering is awful. I hate showering. I avoid showering as often as I possibly can because showering sucks. But And like the more that you avoid things, the more that you put things off and everything like that, like the deeper your depression gets. Would you agree with that, Aneeqa?
100%. Yeah.
So what kinds of things like can we put on like a list or something that we can do that is productive, that would help us to feel like we're getting something done, so that maybe we can make just a small, tiny little extra step or whatever. I mean, Aneeqa mentioned like brushing teeth or like doing a load of laundry, those kinds of things. Anything else that you guys want to add?
I don't know. I feel like avoidance is such a hard topic because I totally avoid things based off fear constantly. And like, because I feel anxious a lot about a lot of things, and so if I feel anxious about something, I'm like, I'm not doing it. But that's most of the things that I've had to do in my life. I've had to overcome that because you can't avoid everything, but it definitely does take away options or opportunities in my life because I'm just so scared. And so I do think that starting small is really helpful, and understanding that sometimes you have to just do things when you don't feel like it. And it's about sometimes turning your brain off and just saying, I'm doing this and I don't care how I feel, but I'm just going to do it. And that's sometimes what I have to do is I have to kind of plan out my day, write down what I'm going to do, and don't give myself an option not to do that thing that I've decided beforehand that I'm going to do, no matter how I'm feeling in that moment, because I let my feelings dictate a lot of what I do sometimes. And a lot of the times our feelings are fear-based and they're not actually useful in helping us to do things that are going to help our life. So I think that's a big thing too, is take a time, like in the morning or at night, when you can kind of think a little clearly, write down what you want to do, and then just make sure you do it. And obviously that's a lot easier said than done, and it's a slow process sometimes, but I don't know.
No, Kim, I thought that was super beneficial. Like when you like plan out your day, like that is very, very good to like not give yourself a choice but to do these kinds of things, But one of the other things that Kim does, I know a lot, is she'll plan, like she takes a lot of notes on her phone. But like she also she'll plan conversations that she's gonna have with somebody about something that is like fearful or like gives her anxiety or something like that. She'll be like, okay, like here are the things that I want to address. Okay, I can say it like this or whatever. And she goes through like a mental like preparation for it. And I think that is also something that can be very beneficial. Aliyah, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I was going to say that sometimes when I get stuck because I want to avoid something, a lot of times I let, it seems a lot bigger or scarier than it really is. And sometimes I need to just do it and face it and practice doing that hard thing and facing my fears or facing whatever makes me feel uncomfortable. Sometimes the practice alone helps. And also sometimes when I practice it, then I realize that it's not so scary, and I'm able to better gauge the level of fear that I should be allocating to whatever activity I'm doing. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah. I don't know if I said that well.
No, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
No, I love that. I have a hard time talking to people and being honest about my feelings too. So I like being able to write it down and practice it and, I don't know, face it in some way. And then when you actually get in the situation, it feels like you're so much stronger. And then you're like, oh, yeah, that wasn't as bad as it was at all. You just automatically assume worst case scenario.
You realize, like, okay, and then I could like a debrief afterwards, like, hey, I was this stressed about this event, and look, I just did it, and it wasn't actually that big of a deal. Mm-hmm. So this is a lesson to me that, like, when I feel this big emotion, that doesn't mean I need to be, like, terrified that that emotion's happening, because this is probably not as big of a deal as my brain is trying to tell me that it is.
That is actually something that a lot of like my parents, my therapist, and all of those kind of things will try to like remind me to do. They're like, "Hey, Shannon, like, look at what you did, and then like, you know, like, how did you feel about it?" Or like, you know, like they remind me to like to look back and like and evaluate things. And I know that Kim, like, I know that you are actually very, very good at being like, oh, okay, like, this is how I like how my brain works, or this is how I've done this, or this is whatever. And so then you're able to to take it over like the next time, and you're like, okay, like, I know that this goes better. It's really, really hard for me to do, but it makes things a lot better. Like, I mean, I've been witness to that many, many, many times, you know. So kudos to you, Kim.
Thank you. Trying.
Well, I think that this has been extremely productive, and I really like it. I think it was very, very good. I also like that I didn't have to spend like 3 weeks working on a script and stuff. But I don't know. And I hope that it was super beneficial for you all. Let me know if you love the Unscripted podcast as much as I do. And let me know if you think that we should do more, and if you have any questions or any topics that you want us to discuss. And we will see you next time. Thanks for listening. Please share this podcast with anyone you know, as I hope that no one will have to struggle by themselves, feel hopeless, alone, or out of options. Send any questions you would like me to answer to afteryou'vefallen@gmail.com, no apostrophe. Check out the official Instagram page. You can check out my blog for more information, shannonblackham.blogspot.com, and visit my personal YouTube page or follow me on my personal Spotify for great music that has blessed me in my life. Come back every Monday for a new episode.